Hello, and welcome to Old Toy, New Joy, the show where I share with you my previously enjoyed toys I purchased from online sources, thrift stores, and collector shows that once belonged to someone else. Today I'll be talking about my hockey cards of players who helped integrate the NHL in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and ongoing. And we're going to start off with the player featured in the two cards right here. We have a 1951-52 Laval Dairy and a 1952-53 St. Lawrence Sails, cards of the great Herb Carnegie. Herb, his brother Ozzie, and their friend Manny McIntyre played together for the Buffalo Bisons in the early 1940s. Together they formed the first all-black line in hockey. And all three players would then go on to play in the Quebec Senior Hockey League for teams such as the Quebec Aces. And Herb would earn 3 consecutive MVP awards and score 127 points in 56 games. He would also play alongside this gentleman, Jean Beliveau, who would go on to be an NHL superstar, of course, with the Montreal Canadiens in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. And Jean Beliveau always spoke very highly of Herb and his teammates, saying that he actually learned from playing with Herb Carnegie for the Quebec Aces in the early 1950s. So I purchased these two cards for an excellent price from the same seller. His title in eBay was a little awkward, and so it evaded my initial keyword searches, and probably a lot of buyers who would have been interested in these cards did not stumble across these cards because he basically just mentioned Herbie Carnegie. He didn't say anything about Laval Dairy, right, or the St. Lawrence Sails. He didn't mention any years. He didn't say anything about Quebec Aces. So a lot of people wouldn't have found these. I like to do very basic keyword searches and then get more complicated to narrow down the search. Now let's talk about the 51-52 Laval Dairy for a moment. This is quite indicative of the hockey cards that were being produced around that time. Here's an example of a 51-52 Parkhurst NHL card of Bill Gatsby. As you can see, they're the same size, same style, but just a picture in the middle, and a lot of border on the outside, and then a little bit of information in the bottom. Name, date of birth, position, and that's pretty much it. Although it looks like the Parkhurst has some stats. And as you can see, both backs are completely blank. Wille grew up idolizing Herb Carnegie, and he himself would end up playing for the Quebec Aces of the qshl in the mid-1950s, before signing with the Boston Bruins in 1958. He would play most of his games during the 60-61 season. Conditions and attitudes were terrible and often volatile for O'Ree, and he was met by dangerous hostility in certain cities. O'Ree would have more success in the WHL during the 60s and early 70s, even winning a couple of scoring titles. There was a hockey card produced for his 1956-57 season spent with the Laval Aces, and there was also a card produced for his time with the Los Angeles Blades in the early 1960s. However, no card exists for his time spent with the Bruins. Until 40 years later, card producer Pinnacle honored Wille in 1998 by producing the first hockey card to represent his NHL career, giving stats on the back for both his 57-58 and 60-61 seasons. I do not have that card. However, I do have this 2006-2007 ITG Heroes and Prospects card. It's a beautiful card, and Herb Carnegie is also featured in the set. I hope to get that one day. But let's take a look at this card. Very classy looking card. And there you see they give career stats line. So that would be combined years 57, 58, and 60, 61. Mike Marson was the second player to integrate the NHL, and he and Bill Riley both joined the Washington Capitals in 1974. I do have Mike's only card, this beautiful 75-76 OPG, showing him in a Capitals jersey. You know, it's interesting, he was only 5'9", but he was solidly built at 200 pounds. And he's got good stats. And it says here that he led his team in game-winning goals and was second in power play goals. Not too shabby at all. I really like that card. Beautiful card. I like that set in general. And I do have a few more cards of players that it is very important to mention. The great goaltender Grant Fuhr, of course, and right winger Ray Neufeld. Edmonton Oilers wingers Anson Carter and Georges Laraque. Georges Laraque, of course, was a very famous enforcer. He was featured a little bit in one of my favorite hockey movies, Goon. And I really like these cards because they're based off of the famous 1954 Topps set. Here's a common card from that set. So as you can see, they use the same colors and the same back design. Another very famous enforcer, Donald Brashear, who of course had some epic confrontations with the likes of Marty McSorley. I can never pronounce his last name. Dustin Byfuglian? I know that's wrong. But here's a 2000, it's a 18 Upper Deck. And here we have one of my favorite Oilers all time, Mike Greer, featured in a 2006-2007 Pinnacle. Here's a 2013 OPG card of superstar PK Subban. And another superstar I'd love to talk about is Jerome McGinley, but I can't find any of my Jerome McGinley cards. But I mentioned them, and of course there are many, many more players worth mentioning, but I didn't want this video to go too long. So thank you so much for letting me share my cards of players who helped integrate the NHL. If you liked the video, please like the video, and we will keep them coming. Until next time, this is your Toy Whisperer saying farewell on Old Toy, New Joy.